I'm Francesca Maxime, and this is Currents.
Will I drown in a sea of green? I check out my first big city St. Patrick's Day parade.
That sound is like nothing I've ever heard before in my life. That is awesome.
Irish get a sound of the old country at a special celebration.
In namen nachher, agus an bhíc, agus an spríd neamh.
And we'll get the real story behind today's patron saint.
Well, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us for this special St. Patrick's Day edition of Currents. Matt McClure is on assignment, and what an assignment it is. He got to sample his very first big city St. Patrick's Day parade today. It has been happening since 1762, if you didn't know, and it's been around longer than the New York Archdiocese. This is something that Matt wanted to experience for himself, and he certainly did.
Okay, so here I am. I'm at 5th Avenue, right about 65th Street, just here off the park. Gorgeous, gorgeous day in New York, and you couldn't ask for a better St. Patrick's Day for my first ever big city, New York City St. Patrick's Day parade. Everybody is really in the St. Patrick's Day spirit here, and I'll show you how. If you look across the street here, even the porta potties are green today. Okay, I think I found somebody who might know a lot about St. Patrick's Day in New York City. Hi, what's your name?
I'm Blarney.
Blarney, and what's your name?
Dennis Old Man, I'm king of the leprechauns.
All right, awesome. I found the king of the leprechauns. This is my first time at the parade. You think I'm gonna have a good time today?
Of course, come on, baby.
So do you do the St. Patrick's Day parade often?
I always do some St. Patrick's Day parade.
What's your guys' favorite part of St. Patrick's Day parade here?
The bagpipes.
My brother who's marching with the pipe band today.
Awesome, awesome. That's great. So this is his first time in the parade as well.
Yes, it certainly is, and we're very excited. The whole family's here.
Great, great. Yeah, I'm looking forward. Maybe I'll see a few Irish step dancers out there. Are you Irish, or are you just
for
getting
today, baby? Just for today.
Just for today. All right, cool. And I haven't mentioned yet, by the way, that I'm part Irish. Yeah, there's some Hogans in my family, so yeah, I'm part Irish. Looking forward to the parade starting here. People celebrating my Irish heritage. This is so cool. I've got to text my friends back in Georgia and tell them what the parade's like here. Which is kind of cool, because if you have a phone like I do, when your outgoing texts are green, which is kind of appropriate for today. I think I actually see something, the beginning of the parade. This is where it all begins, right here. Now, these are the guys with the hardest job in the whole parade. This is really cool. I'm going to have to invest in a kilt and one of those hats. I've never heard anything like it before in my life, because it's like dozens and dozens of bagpipes all at the same time. It's so awesome that these guys are here, that we can thank them for their service like this. It's great. Where are the step dancers? You never know who you're going to run into at the St. Patrick's Day parade.
They got a great turnout on a spectacular day. Typically, it's snowy or rainy or cold. This is spectacular.
So you're just here taking part with
the Emerald Society NYPD. My father was a retired cop, and his two brothers and my nephew. So 3 different generations of parade goers. So it's a great day. Yeah, really fantastic.
It's sticking. Enough pipe bands. I need some step dancers. Well, as you can see, the parade's still going behind me here, but I've got to leave, unfortunately. I've got to go finish out the rest of the workday here. And I didn't even see any Irish step dancing. That's a real bummer, pretty much. But there's still one tradition that I need to take part in that's going to be even more meaningful now.
A green beer. And as the Irish say, may the road rise up to meet you.
Well, that is just the beginning of this St. Patrick's Day edition of Currents. We'll also be hearing more from Matt later on in the program. But when we return, we have the day's headlines, including a letter from the Pope to the Irish people. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Francesca Maxime. A little later in the show, Matt steps out for another taste of Irish culture. But first, let's have a look at the day's headlines. In Ireland, the head of the Catholic Church used his annual St. Patrick's Day homily to apologize for his role in covering up child abuse. Cardinal Sean Brady said, looking back, I am ashamed that I have not always upheld the values that I profess and believe in. And the Pope announced today that he is sending a pastoral letter to Ireland to address that widespread abuse.
I ask all of you to read it for yourselves with an open heart and in a spirit of faith. My hope is that it will help in the process of repentance, healing, and renewal.
And the Pope will sign that letter this Friday. And the church in Brazil may have a sex scandal of its own after a television network there broadcast a video allegedly showing an incident of abuse. A church official there says 3 priests have been suspended. Authorities are investigating. Back in the U.S., a group of Catholic nuns is urging Congress to pass President Obama's health care reform plan. The nuns argue that the bill won't provide federal funding for elective abortions. Meanwhile, the Vatican's newspaper says it is the U.S. bishops who will speak for the Catholic Church on health care reform. The article comes following the news this weekend that the Catholic Health Association was supporting the Senate's version of health care overhaul. The U.S. bishops have repeatedly raised objections to the abortion language in the bill. Finally, this past weekend, the Irish got a chance to hear the sounds of their homeland at a celebration that was really special at Old St. Patrick's Cathedral.
In Amman Nahar, agus an Vic, agus an Sprid Nev, Garev an Tiana Liv, the Lord be with you. It's really wonderful to be with you, and it's an honor for me because this very old cathedral honors the parish of St. Patrick's, honors the Irish people, honors all immigrants all over the world. I feel a great sense of warmth when I come to New York, because I really and truly feel I'm walking on an immigrant shore, immigrant pathways. I'm walking on the streets that our ancestors walked on. Patrick was set free from his slavery. He was unbound, and God walked in him, and he came back to Ireland. And we have the faith. We're here today because of Patrick. We're here today, the church is alive, going through crisis, but Christ is with us in our pain. Ireland is going through a difficult patch, very, very difficult times, but we know with God's help and the Holy Spirit, the Lord is going to guide us through rough waters, and calm will eventually come. Kun mahunas na baki, Dénigé seo I gcuimhne ormsa. Ar nahar atá nav, go néfar danam, go dagad a riocht, go néanta de hálar an talamh mar a néantar nav.
And it's not just a celebration of floats and bands and parades. It's a celebration of people. And the celebration of the Eucharist on the Mass obviously is of primal importance, but so is the family, and so is breaking of bread, celebration of music. It's all combined. The celebrations are not segmented.
St. Agnes's Church up in Midtown in Manhattan has been doing an Irish Mass for many years now. I felt that we would do it during St. Patrick's Week in the cathedral, First Cathedral of St. Patrick in New York. He made it possible for my ancestors to have the faith. And thank you, St. Patrick.
Some big news from new St. Patrick's Cathedral. Archbishop Dolan announced at the end of Mass this morning that Old St. Patrick's has been elevated to the rank of a minor basilica, the first for the Archdiocese. The Brooklyn Diocese, meanwhile, has two basilicas, St. James Cathedral downtown and Our Lady of Perpetual Help in Sunset Park. And stay tuned, there's much more current straight ahead. Just ahead, the man behind the myth, the story of the real St. Patrick. Welcome back. We'll be on the parade and the Green Bear and all the blarney. At the heart of this holiday is, of course, St. Patrick. And if you think you know his story, you might want to think again. Our Natalia Ortiz has been investigating. So what'd you find out?
Oh gosh, Francesca. We figured if you want to know about St. Patrick, go to Woodside. It's one of the biggest Irish neighborhoods in New York. So on Sunday, we headed out to St. Sebastian's Church and asked people, who was St. Patrick?
Everybody knows St. Patrick.
The patron saint of Ireland.
He's the patron saint of Ireland.
He's a great saint.
Patron saint of Ireland.
He's in heaven, I believe.
He's an Irish saint, St. Patrick. And that's it.
St. Patrick's come from Ireland.
I don't think he was born in Ireland, was he?
They say he wasn't really Irish, he was Spanish.
Originally from France.
Originally from Rome, and he was kidnapped.
St. Patrick was a slave on the estate at Slane.
He was, a martyr, and he worked to get the conversion of Ireland.
He brought the Christian religion into Ireland.
Converted the country, drove out the snakes.
He chased all the snakes out of there anyway.
Took the snakes out.
I don't know whether there ever were snakes in Ireland.
I think he freed the snakes out of Ireland.
We haven't had a snake since.
I don't know anything about it.
I have no idea.
You know, at my age, sometimes you forget.
If you had an expert in front of you and you could ask something, what would you ask?
What would I want to know about St. Patrick?
How many people did he save?
When was he born? When did he pass away or something like that?
How was his life then in Ireland before he brought the religion? How was life in Ireland before that?
Was he a happy man? That's all I could ask, yes.
What was his achievements that made him a saint?
It'd be interesting to know how much of is legend and how much is reality.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. Well, hardly any definitive answers there. So for the real scoop, we tracked down someone who really knows. He's John Sweeney, the editor of Ireland's Saint, the essential biography of St. Patrick. John, so tell us a little bit about St. Patrick. He's a very popular man this time of year. What do you have to say about the man versus the myth?
Well, the myth is part of what we celebrate when everybody, you don't have to be just Irish, goes out and has a good time tonight. But the man is someone who we do know some specific things about. He was born not in Ireland, he was born in England.
Okay.
Roman-occupied Britain at that time. Probably around 387 in the late 4th century. He had wealthy parents, and he was kidnapped around the age of 16, captured by bandits from Ireland, and that's how he ended up in Ireland.
Well, why do you think that's so misunderstood? I had people this weekend when I was interviewing people saying, oh, I think he was born in Spain. I mean, we just played the segment right now, and there was all this commotion about where he was born. Why do you think that is?
Well, because, he's Ireland's saint, right?
Okay.
So he must be from Ireland. But what makes him a saint and what makes his life so fascinating is that he was kidnapped by Irish, brought from England to Ireland, held captive for several years. He escaped, and he ended up going back to Ireland.
What did he do to become a saint? Why is he a saint?
Well, he forgave the people who had enslaved him. I mean, he went back to England.
Wow.
He visited his parents. He spent some time probably in France in a monastery.
Mm-hmm.
He became a priest, and he felt called to go back to the people who had enslaved him. He had learned the Celtic language, and he wanted to go back and bring Christianity to Ireland.
Well, that's certainly something we can relate to now during Lent. I mean, just forgiving and learning how to forgive people for what they've done to us. What about the driving the snakes out of Ireland? What do you have to say about that?
Well, The funny thing about that is that experts, scientists will tell you that there have never been snakes in Ireland.
That's what I hear too, and I'm thinking, okay, well, where did this come about?
Well, it's a great story. You know, some of the stuff that's part of our faith is there, I think, sometimes because it's such a great story, it's got to be there. But Patrick carried a staff with him, and there were lots of legends about where that staff came from. Some folks in the Middle Ages thought that Jesus himself had used that staff, and it had somehow passed to Patrick. And so there was the idea that Patrick used that staff to beat the snakes, which were sort of symbolizing heathenism and evil out of Ireland.
Okay.
But it doesn't seem like it's true. There never were snakes in Ireland to be beaten out of there, but he certainly played an important role in beating the heathenism out of Ireland.
Well, tell us a little bit about his life. Briefly, what are the bullet points that are important to remember in his biography?
You know, the experts will tell you that there's not a whole lot you can know about his life. The only things we know for sure about Patrick come from Patrick's own writings. He wrote a little book called his Confession, and it's from there that we know things such as his father was a deacon in the church in England. His grandfather was a presbyter in his village in Britain. And at 16, Patrick was kidnapped by pirates, taken to Ireland. His faith was kindled while he was in captivity in Ireland. He worked as a shepherd while he was there, and he heard the voice of God speak to him. 6 years later, he fled Ireland, stowed away on a ship. The ship traveled for 3 days until reaching land, and there's lots of debates about where it reached land. Was it in what is now France, or was it back in England? After a time with no food, Patrick and the couple of companions he was with, they found a herd of pigs, and they ate honey from hives that they discovered. Wow. He then made his way back to England, visited his parents, and then he eventually went back to Ireland as a missionary. Not, by the way, as the first missionary to Ireland. That's another misconception. There had been others before him. But then while he was in Ireland, he baptized thousands of people. He expanded Christianity throughout the whole island.
Well, what about the holiday, and what do you think this time of year people should think about when they think about St. Patrick? What should they be remembering on March 17th?
Well, you know, one cool thing is that we know that St. Patrick's Day has been celebrated in Ireland and elsewhere since at least about the year 900. So it is a holiday with medieval origins, and there aren't a lot that fit that category. People have been celebrating Patrick for that long. But like you said before, especially in the season of Lent, there's stuff that we should take from the life of Patrick. He became a saint because he experienced great loss, great heartache, and yet he went back to the people who had enslaved him. He became devoted to the people who had enslaved him, and he ended up changing Ireland forever. So the question, I think, for people is, can you forgive the people who have wronged you? You know, can you love the people who have done something wrong to you? Because Patrick did that and more.
Well, that's certainly an important lesson for all of us to learn. Thank you so much, John, for being with us today, and I hope to talk to you again soon.
My pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Can't believe people didn't know where he was from. I mean, really.
You could see all the countries that were mentioned, from Spain to Italy to...
I'm surprised they didn't put Indonesia in there and throw that one in. I mean, come on.
You know, but it's good to do these type of things for the audience, because I think all of us kind of lose sight sometimes of what the holiday, or even some other holidays, are really about. And to go back, you know, people get caught up in the parades and the drinking beer, which is fun. Nothing wrong with that. But sometimes it's good to remind ourselves who we're really celebrating.
And I think I once watched a Food Network special that talked about sort of how they came about the certain kinds of breakfast items that they would have, all kinds of sausages and the special eggs. I mean, really some heavy food, but I guess you need it in your stomach if you're going to go out there and drink green beer all day.
You know what? I had, by mistake, the other day, I ordered an Irish breakfast. It wasn't by mistake, I shouldn't lie, but I wasn't really sure what was in it. I just thought it was just a regular breakfast, and I realized what I was in for. It was a lot heavier than I would normally eat.
Yeah, a little bit more in there, but hey, if you're going to go out and drink the beer, I guess you're going to need it.
I think it goes with it.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, Natalia, thanks for the insights.
Thank you, Francesca.
Well, stay with us. We'll hear from Matt once again when Currents continues.
When we return, will the luck of the Irish help me on the dance floor?
They just get enjoyment, a lot of physical activity, which is great at any age. And a lot of these girls and boys grow up together, and this is like a social network.
Well, finally, it wouldn't be St. Patrick's Day without a little Irish dancing thrown in. And while we don't have Michael Flatley or Riverdance here tonight, we do have something uniquely our own. We have Matt. Last fall, the Baptist boy from Georgia decided he wanted to get in touch with his inner leprechaun, and the result wasn't what anyone of us here expected.
Today, I'm going to learn how to step dance. Irish step dancing is what I'm going to learn, and I'm going to look it up here online. Let's see, Irish step dancing. See if I can find a video of it here. Yeah, I can so do that. That looks so easy. I don't know if a video online is really the way to go learning it, though. So I'm going to find an Irish dance class to attend. Tell me, what do you think kids get out of a class like this?
They just get enjoyment, a lot of physical activity, which is great at any age. And a lot of these girls and boys grew up together, and this is like a social network. They may have gone to Holy Name Grammar School together, and then they went to a different high school. So this is something that keeps them together, and they meet once a week. And it's a social thing as well as a physical dancing thing, and that just seems to be a certain camaraderie from being from the same kind of background, Catholic background, and so on. So it just brings the culture, you know, the Catholic culture and so on.
What do you think you get out of coming to a dance class?
You get to learn leg muscles. Yeah, leg muscles. You get to learn like a lot of like how to like respect yourself and like self-respect and just like enjoy yourself. You learn how to enjoy yourself and have a good time.
Well, I might try and get the teacher to show me like a couple of steps here in a few minutes. So don't laugh at me, all right? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to follow. I'm not doing the steps. Well, I messed that up, didn't I? Oh my God. I'm too tall. Oh, that's this. Is that it? Oh, like this. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I feel like an idiot. Just so you know. The most embarrassing moment of my life, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
I think Matt's going to stick to reporting. Well, that is it for tonight's edition of Currents. Remember, you can watch us online at currentsny.net, and you can follow us on Twitter and become a fan on Facebook, too. Well, until next time, for our own Lord of the Dance, Matt McClure, and my co-host, of course, I'm Francesca Maxime. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great night.